unfortunately, there's still a fear that Leinster and Ireland do struggle against power. I even heard Dan Bigger speak about it yesterday when he was working for TNT. That's out there, and maybe it's false, but he referenced England beating Ireland. La Rochelle in the past. Even Leicester at times seem to have more power than Leinster. Or certain at times when they brought that power game, they made Leinster look human. So this is the test. This is the ultimate test, and that's why even that group game, La Rochelle weren't on form. Leinster had to win. They had to win away. The game was incredibly tight. It was incredibly tight. So that power does take away a lot of Leinster's. Or sorry, that power historically has taken away a lot of Leinster's X factor and flair, and it's become a battle. And that's Leinster can't run away from that. They're going to have to win those battles this weekend, and to win them, I think they need 4 or 5 players having wordlies, having big games, and unfortunately, I look back at the semi-final that they lost during COVID, and I look back at the 2 finals. The best players on the field were wearing La Rochelle jerseys in all 3 games, and nearly double the amount of Leinster players who really could go into the dressing room and say, well, I had a 9 out of 10 or I had a 10 out of 10. Not that it would matter to them because it's the collective is important, but that's where it went. That's where they lost it. You know what I mean? Like for sure, Leinster. And I'm watching Chasing the Sun, and Razzie before the Ireland game was talking about, they think they're so smart. They think they're so smart and so technical and all this stuff. And we do think we're really smart and really technical. But the reality is that we haven't been outsmarted by La Rochelle. Leinster haven't. Ireland, against England, weren't necessarily outsmarted. It was literally an inability to deal with a team who were able to bully us into collision and squeeze us. And until we start to do that on a regular basis, until we match our intelligence, sounds fucking ridiculous, but like our interest in how to play the game, with that beast mode, with that animalistic aggression that you need, and do it and beat them, not just La Rochelle, but other big teams. There's always going to be that doubt because that's there now, and maybe the players will tell you, it's bullshit. Like we just got beaten, we haven't performed, blah 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 blah, and that's fine. They're totally right to that opinion. My opinion is until we start to prove on a regular basis that we can beat these big, physical, aggressive teams, there has to be a doubt there. There has to be doubt. And the other doubt, and this is again, Leinster players won't like me saying this, and Leinster fans might neither, but the reality is until this team, become better winning silverware, or closing out games, or come from behind to win in the last 10 minutes. There's that doubt there as well. Even go back to the URC final. I know the semi-final wasn't Leinster's full stride team, but they lost the game when it was there to be won. And to be fair to the other 3 losses to La Rochelle, all those matches were there to be won. They were there to be won. And that's not taking it from La Rochelle. La Rochelle did win it. But that's what this group have to do. They have to show that they can win games that are just in the balance.
Well, what you're saying about the physicality there, Bert, and it being a concern, like Bigger's point was that I guess if you can match or better Ireland's power and intensity on the day, you have a chance. But sure, that's applicable to anybody. Like Ireland, if you look at their games against power teams over the last couple of years, they've beaten South Africa twice, they've beaten France twice. What are you discounting that?
No, we have beaten them, but like this, the South Africa match in the World Cup, we managed to win it, but fuck, like it was you couldn't say that we were able to play our game. Do you know what I mean? Like at first we did win it and we beat France. We beat France. I agree with you, but it's still the potential. Like, look, it's not rocket. It's nearly you play a schools match next week. You're talking about the same stuff, so it's not an inherent weakness in Ireland, but that's the teams that give us the most trouble. You know what I mean? It's not a team who are more skillful, faster, play high tempo. It's not a team who basically are obsessed about kicking that you're really worried about anymore. That's the one. And again, like I said, this is rugby. It hasn't changed in 100 years, but until we are able to beat them on a consistent basis, Yeah, like I still think there was elements of the All Blacks match where it was New Zealand's power that got us. You know what I mean? It was their power and aggression and physicality at the breakdown that actually took us out of our stride. You know what I mean? It's not New Zealand aren't like South Africa where we think it's only about physicality. But by Christ, did they bring physicality against us in a quarter final, and they rattled us. They rattled us. So that's my argument. I know it sounds so generic. I know it sounds so generic, but unfortunately, until we actually can handle teams like La Rochelle, and manage to not get beaten up to a certain extent, there has to be that doubt. Yeah.
Well, we discuss physicality battles in a rugby context, and I often think we're guilty of discussing them as being black or white, in that one team won the physicality battle and one team lost it. Whereas in reality, to me, it strikes as being more like, if you consider it like a 12-round slugfest in a boxing match, one guy can win 7 rounds to 5. You know what I mean? And like, I would say the Leinster La Rochelle games in recent years, absolutely La Rochelle have had that physical edge and they've won those knockout games. But like, as you say, Leinster could have won all of those games as well. Like, they've been very close. And that's where Ninaber, arguably, whether it's through like the allocation of energy at key points of the game, or just having a little bit more in the final quarter, or even from a strategic standpoint, he could be the difference. You've made the point already, but like, he could be the guy to get you over the line. Just that little bit of South African shrewdness.
Yeah, 100%. I think he was the guy they needed, and effectively they didn't need him to be top of the table in the URC. They could do that with Stewart. They could do that without Stewart. Like, that's just the reality of how loaded they are in terms of quality. But they need him to get him over the line in the Champions Cup. You know, they need him to get over the line in the Champions Cup, and it might be only a 1%. It might be only 1%, but I think this, it comes down to this. And he could say, "Oh, it's early, and he only came after the World Cup. It'll be next year before you see the best of him, etc." And I don't doubt that, but they really need him this weekend to give him the confidence, to give him the confidence that they can win and knock out rugby. And I'm not sure it was you or Murray said, "Oh, you know, they look comfortable against the Stormers, even though they were 16-0 down. At the end, they were obviously on their own line. They never really panicked." The South Africans had that ability as well, that they won obviously quarterfinal, semi-final, final, lose or winning by a point in each game, but yet you didn't ever see them. You never thought they were that close in terms of how they acted. So I think Leinster, to be fair, are getting practice at that to a certain extent, just by the nature of the fact their performances haven't been really convincing. That they went behind against Leicester, they went behind against the Bulls, and haven't really panicked, which is a good thing.